As we approach the 2024 presidential election, the current landscape of polling data presents a complex picture that requires thorough scrutiny. With just under 20 days remaining until Election Day on November 5th, it's essential to delve deeply into these polling numbers and assess their implications for the outcome of the election. In this discussion, I aim to connect the dots between current polling trends and the historical data we saw during the 2020 election cycle. By examining the electoral dynamics unique to each state, we can better understand how the electoral map might take shape in the coming weeks. Let's begin our analysis with Minnesota, a state historically known for leaning Democratic. Recent polling data indicates that Vice President Kamala Harris currently holds an average lead of 4.7 over her Republican challenger. However, a closer inspection of past electoral outcomes raises concerns about the reliability of this lead. Back in 2016, Hillary Clinton was projected to win Minnesota comfortably, yet she ended up securing only a 1.5 victory margin. Then in 2020, Joe Biden was also anticipated to win by a larger margin, yet he only managed a 2.5 lead over his opponent. This history of underperformance raises important questions regarding the perceived Democratic advantage in Minnesota. If we take into account these historical polling errors, particularly the tendency to underestimate Republican support, it's conceivable that Trump could not only close this gap, but also potentially take the lead. This evolving sentiment among Minnesota voters could signify a significant shift, compelling us to categorize the state as leaning red, while also recognizing the possibility of substantial movement in Trump's favor as Election Day approaches. Next, we turn to Iowa, a state that has historically been a bastion of Republican support. Current polls indicate that Trump enjoys a lead of about 4. In the past, he has won Iowa convincingly, securing victories by margins of 9 in 2016 and 8 in 2020. These historical results lead us to question whether the current polling accurately reflects the views of Iowa's electorate. When we apply historical adjustments to the polling trends, it becomes clear that Trump could well secure Iowa by a larger margin, possibly even up to 10.2. This reinforces Iowa's classification as likely red, illustrating the strong Republican base that continues to dominate in this state and suggesting the potential for an even more significant Republican presence in the upcoming election. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Moving on to Wisconsin, a state that has increasingly become a battleground in recent elections. We observe that polling averages currently show Harris with a slim lead of approximately 0.3. While this slight advantage might seem promising for Democrats, historical performance data indicates that Democrats have often been overestimated in their polling numbers in Wisconsin. In 2016, Clinton was projected to win by a comfortable margin, yet she ultimately lost the state. Even Biden's narrow victory in 2020 came with a lead of just 0.6. Adjusting for these historical inaccuracies reveals that Trump could actually have a slight lead of around 5.9 in Wisconsin. Given this analysis, we classify Wisconsin as likely red, emphasizing the unpredictable nature of the state and its critical importance as a battleground in the election. Next, we delve into Michigan, a state that has historically been viewed as a Democratic stronghold, but now appears to be experiencing a significant political shift. Currently, polling indicates that Harris leads by 1. However, a more nuanced analysis reveals that when we adjust for historical polling trends, Trump might gain a lead of about 7.2. The potential shift in Michigan's electoral dynamics is noteworthy. In both 2016 and 2020, the state was anticipated to lean blue, yet it has demonstrated a tendency to swing unexpectedly. With these insights in mind, we categorize Michigan as likely red, underscoring its evolving political landscape as we approach the election. Ohio is yet another state that consistently leans Republican. The current polling shows Trump with a 7.4 lead. Historically, he has won Ohio by margins of 8 in 2016 and 3.5 in 2020. Adjusting for these historical trends indicates that Trump could potentially win Ohio by a significant 13.6. This reinforces Ohio's classification as a reliably red state, showcasing Trump's sustained support there. The Republican base in Ohio appears robust, making it clear that the state will play a crucial role in the election. Turning to Pennsylvania, a state that holds historical electoral significance, we find that current polling shows Trump with a slight lead of just 0.3. However, when we incorporate the historical context and account for potential polling inaccuracies, it becomes evident that he may be on track to win Pennsylvania by a more substantial margin of approximately 6 points. Pennsylvania has fluctuated between parties in recent elections, and Biden's victory in 2020 came after he was projected to have a more comfortable margin. The possibility of a Republican resurgence in Pennsylvania is quite real, prompting us to classify it as likely red. Shifting focus to Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, we encounter an interesting situation. In this district, Harris has a notable lead in the polls, currently reported at around 10. However, when we critically analyze these figures and adjust for historical polling inaccuracies, we discover that her lead might actually be much narrower, around 3.8. This suggests a more competitive race than initially perceived, prompting us to categorize this district as leaning blue, indicating a tighter contest than previously anticipated. As we explore the Northeast, we arrive in New York, a state traditionally known for its strong Democratic leanings. Current polling indicates that Harris has a comfortable lead of approximately 12. However, this figure represents a notable decrease in expected Democratic performance compared to previous elections. Adjusted projections suggest that she might only win by around 7.3, which would be the worst showing for any Democratic candidate in New York since 1988. This trend highlights an increasing competitiveness in a state that has historically been a Democratic. As a result, we classify New York as likely blue, acknowledging that while Harris is projected to win, the margin is narrowing, indicating a more competitive race than initially thought. Next, we analyze New Hampshire, where Harris is currently ahead by 7.4, according to the latest polls. However, when we consider adjustments for historical polling errors, her lead dwindles to a mere 1 point. This tightening race is particularly noteworthy, especially considering that Clinton won New Hampshire by a razor-thin margin in 2016. Given these developments, we classify New Hampshire as lean blue. Although Harris maintains an advantage, the competitive environment is palpable, suggesting that voter sentiment could shift in unexpected ways. Maine presents a somewhat similar narrative. The latest polling indicates that Harris holds an 11.7 lead, yet these numbers might reflect inflated expectations. After adjustments, her lead shrinks to approximately 5.5. While this still positions her favorably, the race's competitive nature cannot be overlooked. Therefore, we categorize Maine as likely blue, remaining mindful of its potential for increased competitiveness. In Virginia, polling suggests that Harris is ahead by 6.4. However, historical trends show that her lead diminishes to a slim 0.2. Virginia has been a competitive state in recent elections, and the shifting political dynamics indicate that it could easily become a battleground once again. Consequently, we classify Virginia as tilt blue, recognizing that it has the potential to swing in either direction depending on voter turnout and campaign effort. North Carolina is another pivotal state to consider. Trump currently holds a narrow lead of 1.2. However, historical data suggests that he may enjoy even stronger support than current polling indicates. Given its history of Republican victories and recent trends favoring the GOP, we adjust our expectations and classify North Carolina as likely red. This classification reflects the strong Republican leanings in the state and the ongoing efforts by both parties to secure voter support. As we venture further south, we arrive in Georgia, a state that surprised many during the 2020 election when Biden flipped it by a narrow margin of just 0.24. At present, polling indicates that Trump holds a slight lead of 0.9. However, historical adjustments suggest that Trump could potentially win Georgia by as much as 7.1. This indicates a considerable reversal from the previous election, suggesting that Republican support in Georgia may be gaining momentum once again. Consequently, we categorize Georgia as likely red, acknowledging its evolving political landscape. Florida, another state known for its unpredictable electoral outcomes, presents its own challenges. Current polling shows Trump leading by 6.1. But when we factor in historical adjustments, it appears he might win Florida by an even larger margin of 12.3. This strong showing aligns with Republican trends in the state, particularly following Ron DeSantis' impressive victory in the governor's race, where he won by nearly 19. Given this solid Republican footing, Florida is firmly classified as solidly red, emphasizing its importance as a stronghold for Trump's campaign. Texas remains firmly in Republican territory, with Trump leading by 6 points in the latest polls. Adjustments indicate he could win Texas by a double-digit margin, reinforcing its classification as a solid red state. Although urban areas in Texas have demonstrated some Democratic gains, the overall demographic and political trends suggest that Trump's support is likely to remain robust. As we turn our focus to Colorado and New Mexico, both states have been Democratic strongholds in recent elections, yet they are displaying signs of increased competitiveness. In Colorado, polling indicates that Harris is projected to lead by. However, after applying historical polling adjustments, her lead diminishes to approximately 4.8. This decline suggests a shift toward a more competitive environment, prompting us to classify Colorado as lean blue. Similarly, in New Mexico, while Harris appears to have a comfortable lead, adjustments reveal that her advantage may only be about 1.8. This indicates that New Mexico, too, could trend toward a more competitive race, leading us to classify it as lean blue, reflecting the ongoing evolution of voter sentiment in both states. In summary, as we examine the evolving polling trends and historical data leading up to the critical November 5th election, it becomes increasingly clear that while these numbers provide vital insights into the current mood of the electorate, they come with substantial caveats. Polls can capture the sentiments of a particular moment in time, but they are not infallible predictors of final outcomes. The potential for shifts in voter sentiment remains high as both parties ramp up their campaigning efforts in these key battleground states. Each state presents unique challenges and opportunities that candidates must navigate to maximize their chances of success. As we continue to track these developments, it's essential to exercise caution in interpreting polling data. Historical inaccuracies have shown us time and again that polling can miss the mark, especially in fiercely competitive races where voter sentiments can fluctuate rapidly. The political climate is fluid, and with just weeks remaining until the election, the impact of campaign strategies, debates, and voter outreach initiatives will play a crucial role in shaping the final result. I appreciate you joining me today as we dive into these intricate dynamics and predictions for the upcoming election. I'm excited to continue these discussions as we navigate this pivotal election season together. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis and insights as we keep a close watch on these evolving narratives.